please like, subscribe, of course, share, hit the notification bell, leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok now. And yeah.
Particularly when it comes to the group of death here in Group A, why do you think the two teams that will come out of here are kind of clearly above the other two? Where you just think maybe they have favorable matchups, or is it like, well, they have Giannis, or, Canada has SGA? Like, what is it about these teams that, for you puts them clearly above the other two?
I think, well, for Greece is Giannis, and it's not only Giannis, like they have like a pretty deep, like good coach, really good coach, like ex-player, legend. They're gonna be missing Slukas a lot. Like he would been like, if he plays, like they're maybe first in this group. Honestly, like he's one of the most clutch European players ever, and it would have been interesting to see him again with this lineup. Kalates is kind of iffy hurt, I think. So I don't know if he plays, but he can always go off like a lot. They do have like physical team as usual, so I'm like they're usually pretty good in these tournaments. So like especially when they
do
got
play pretty
here, and
physical, yeah.
and so I would have them like they could bully Canada pretty okay, and like they have some dogs they can hunt SGA like on kind of like Avramovich did with Serbia. It's not, again, this group, like everyone can be wrong whatever we say. We can say all three different things and five different things, like it might all be wrong because it's so unpredictable. Because I don't think I've ever seen these type of four teams in the same group on a tournament like this. This type of like pedigree of countries that with basketball, it's not. I don't think I've seen it in a lot. I mean, especially Australia, like again with the NBA players, and they're the odd man out for me there. But I think in Spain, again with coaching, and they have like the system, like you saw that in soccer too, like they won again with like young guys. So I can never discount them. So they're above Australia for me for that. And then obviously Canada for pure talent and some experience from last year too. And again, we go back to Greece. I think Canada's going to be first in group, but Greece second, and then Spain is right there. So.
Okay, then for Group B, my question is about France, actually. And actually, Will, you could definitely help answer this one because it's all about Wemby. France looks very different than it did last summer when it was unceremoniously eliminated from the FIBA World Cup, in large part because Wemby is playing for Team France this year. Do you think that's enough of an addition to make them one of the two clear favorites coming out of this group? Because without Wemby, I wouldn't pick France coming out of this group. I think that they would be they would kind of be on par with like a Brazil. I think if another country was going to come out of this group, maybe as a wild card or something, I'd pick Brazil. But obviously they have Wemby. So like what kind of difference does he make for Team France?
Wemby just gives them more options. Like if Rudy's it's with certain lineups or whatever,
his
or games, like just that versatility that he brings. And I mean, we're still in the early stages of his career where he still has so much room to take off. So I can't say that like
but
Wemby
if he gets taller.
Didn't they say that he did a little bit? That's just
he
scary.
did, apparently. But he's going to be like 8 feet tall by the end of his career.
Yeah, I mean, he's been focusing on, on the NBA and fitting in with the Spurs and Pop, and I don't know how much of that he's taking to the Olympics and all that. Like, this is kind of a whirlwind year for him, being the number one, pick and rookie of the year. Now he's playing the Olympics in the off season. I don't know that he's like so talented at this point that it's like pushing them over the edge that they're like world beaters, but it's just that versatility he brings. I think that's the biggest thing because he can play different styles, and I think he intimidates players too. They're not sure how to attack him yet as well, like because he just like large. He'll just reach, and with the spacing spacing already be compressed, and he can just reach. Like he got Jokic on one too where he was just rim. Like and the rim. And
that's right. With no basket interference, like as soon as that thing hits the rim, he can swat it away.
Yeah,
or swat it like out of the basket even.
There are unique aspects to his game that could be interesting in this type of setting. So
I would say like a couple of things that go against him. Coach has kind of been there for a while, but like he's not. I think they underachieved over the years, considering the amount of talent they have. I think Grace, like even without Wemby, I think you might be underestimating. Well, I don't trust them obviously same way, but as far as like talent, they do have a lot even without Wemby. The thing is,
They
again,
have
the coach.
FIBA Fournier first and
Exactly.
foremost.
Well, Gobert too. Honestly, like he's awesome
Well,
in,
yeah.
in FIBA. Um,
Of course, they have
they
the
have that
four-time
thing.
defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert, as well.
Yeah, they had
Yes.
that thing with like Latvia had, or not Latvia, Lithuania had with like they have Jonas and Sabonis, and you're like, how do we now play them together? Like they're really big names,
Mhm.
and you can't bench one, but like you maybe should at some point. But like, how do you like
Mhm.
at one point like maybe because Wemby can shoot, how do you not have Rudy play at all, and then you go with Yabusele and when Wemby together and Fournier, it's kind of try to like shoot your way out of maybe a hole. Obviously, defensively, I think they're going to be. It should be like dominating. That's what's
They
like.
have
Those are kind of
Koulibaly
things.
as well on the
Yeah, that
perimeter.
too.
So
Yeah,
actually, like, you look at that and you're like, this could be like a really annoying team to play,
yeah,
defensively
Yeah,
speaking,
they will
if
be.
they can figure out how to get it together and be like good enough on offense.
yeah,
But
exactly. But from the good part, Wemby's young and he hasn't been at this stage, so I think he might get in some like freshness and some positive energy. And he's very competitive. He's like
he is very competitive.
like abnormally maybe for that age.
Yeah.
At least like yeah,
Well,
like
how long has he been playing professionally, right? Before
a few
before he
years.
got to
Like
the NBA.
he was. I mean, he was still young, but yeah, it was like a couple of years probably. I mean, everyone's kind of professional back there, so where you cut off,
Right.
kind of like the first league, second league
Right.
kind of thing. But either way, like he might bring in some like new energy. Again, it's a little tricky because of that's why I was like kind of rooting for Embiid to play for them because that would have been a chaos. Who plays there? Who's on the bench? Like that would have been so funny.
Right.
That would have been just like the side eye, like
Well, yeah. Or you would have had to have like Rudy and Embiid playing together. Embiid would have been very annoyed with that space.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
As much as he's struggling right now with Team USA. Yeah, it's an interesting question, right? And like Will and I had this whole discussion going into the playoffs about like how young players fare. And Wemby has been playing professionally for, some amount of time before he even came to the NBA, but now he's the guy on his team in San Antonio, and now he's like the guy on this for Team France right now for their senior men's international team. And I don't think he's been in this role before, and certainly not in the Olympics, right? This is first
Yeah.
Olympics. It seems like a whirlwind of a situation to be in. It must be so exciting, like all this adrenaline
Yeah.
pumping, and the actual
Home
tournament takes
country.
place over a really short time span. Like, I don't know how any of them like settle themselves down to like get into their routines and
You
just
almost
kind of
want to be like either
settle
too
in.
young or like very like experienced. It's like
Yeah,
you don't know any better when you're
too young
young.
to not
When you're
know any
somewhere in the
better.
middle, when
Fearless.
it's like everyone's expecting you to blow up, and you're like 25, and you're like maybe you feel too much pressure. With 19's like it's like, oh, he's a kid, but then like you see Jovic last year, like
Right.
he kind of got on the stage with that tournament. So like you almost don't want to think about. We want to let the folly of youth like just
Yeah.
roll on. So yeah.
Okay, so the last set of questions we have are related to Group C, mostly about Team USA and Team Serbia. So Cat Like Sports on Twitter asks, she wanted to hear our predictions for which country wins. And I would love for you guys to pick who you would want to see as USA's starting five, since there's been some controversy about the starters. So I'll just answer this one quickly. Because for the most part, I wouldn't change the starters, except that I would have AD starting in place of Joel Embiid. That's kind of where the controversy's been in this center position. But I was contemplating this question before it was known that Kevin Durant was going to be coming back from his calf strain for sure. He'd missed most of the exhibition games with that, and Drew Holiday was starting in place of that small forward spot. I would actually keep Drew there and bring KD in off the bench and, mix up the rotation based on that and how that plays out. But I like what Drew brings defensively, and he's a good connective piece and all of that. I don't think the starters are lacking for shooting necessarily. Also would put less pressure on him, coming back from the calf strain. He really needs to, catch his rhythm and all of that. So if I was managing the team, that's what I would want to see. But if I want Serbia to win the tournament, I want Embiid starting. I want Kevin Durant starting. Maybe this is the hubris.
Yeah.
I would want LeBron coming off the bench. I would want LeBron like not playing. Like he's Udonis
Yeah.
Haslam on this
So
team.
annoying.
I'd
Like,
want
why is he
Steph
so
out.
good?
Like I'd
He's
want
40.
Ant to not play. So I would have like Booker. Um, who are the other guards
Halliburton.
on that team?
Halliburton.
Yeah, I'd have Booker, Halliburton,
Bring Jaylen Brown.
Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring Jaylen
Replace
Brown to
Jaylen
the
Brown
team.
with
And
or
then
Derek White with
Embiid,
Brown.
and then that's who I would start if I was trying to sabotage Team USA. But yeah, Will, do you have any thoughts on who the USA's starting five should be?
I don't really have a strong opinion. I mean, it seems like there's some politics going on with like egos and stardom
Always.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that with like having to start Embiid. It's
Like
interesting,
they went
but
through all of this trouble to
Yeah,
get him to
that's the
join
thing.
Team USA, right? It's not
Mhm.
just that he's there and he's like the MVP and all of that, right? You have so
Yeah.
many names on this list. I think it's because they went through all the trouble of like courting him and like trying to win him
Right.
versus Team France.
So
So
you're
It was
thinking
now-
not
full
going to
court
start
press.
him.
It was a full court press with him, and it's hard not to get him. And it's what they talk about with managing egos, managing players. Like if you bench him, you might risk getting like the Brandon Ingram situation, just so he just checks out.
Right.
I don't know. That's like a character comment.
Oh
like
no,
I don't know.
we play our better center. Zzz. In 80 and Bam.
Yeah.
And Embiid is sulking at the end of the bench. What is this going to do
Tragedy,
to the
yeah.
team?
But it's kind of been working well for them having like this amazing bench unit because it's like
Yeah.
a lot
It's
of teams can't compete with that. So just start Embiid and just close with whoever's like playing the best in that game, and like the
Yeah,
players won't really
limit the
care at that
minutes.
point.
And especially if it's a short, you talked about it's a shorter game, like in a lot of teams, you can break them with that second unit. Like, I mean, because they're good, obviously, like they're too good anyway. Like that
Mhm.
starting lineup, like it's
Right.
not. We're talking about like, oh, like they're so much worse with like, oh, they're worse with Embiid on. It's like,
Right.
Yeah, it's
like I wish a lot of countries had that problem of like, starting Joel Embiid. Like I wish
I know,
Cameron,
right? It's
Cameron
like they
would
go
to-
from plus, plus 12 net ratings, like a plus 4. That's
Yeah,
they're just still winning.
And then you run into like that second unit with like other countries. Like second unit is like a much different story.
yep.
I would still keep
Yeah.
it the way it is. Like it doesn't matter. And it's also like a little overblown of like he's so bad. It's relative. Like it's just again different type of style of
It's more
basketball.
about fit than anything, right?
Yeah,
Like he's just
Yeah, it's the
I thought he
fit.
was actually quite good defensively in the Germany exhibition game, in large part because I think that the way that Germany plays doesn't really take advantage of some of his like limitations, especially like conditioning wise, because they play so kind of slow and methodical compared to the other teams that was giving those USA's starters issues. So I think it might just be a matchup thing, and then when you see them in the Olympics, there are going to be games where they're just dominating in those minutes anyway.
Yeah.
Which that is Mile High Aki's question, our good friend.
Yes, that's right. Love Mile High Hockey.
He said, "Why is Embiid shit at international basketball?" We kind of just touched on that. Yeah, I think I would just say he's used to being the number one option on the Sixers, and like everything's running through him. On the USA, it's like even for his players this good, some of them are ball dominant, some of them are good off the ball. There's just different styles. It's hard to like mesh that. It's just like a little awkward, but
And also, I mean, it's just the elephant in the room has got to be said. Like, it's not the same amount of free throws you're going to get. And so
Yeah.
there's less freedom in that way. Like, if you don't get calls the same way, like, it's just you have less space to do what he does. And it's just different. Less, no 3 second, again, a lot easier to double from there. Like, you can focus. And yes, like, the logical way, like people are like, oh, everyone says Embiid's bad, but he's the only one getting doubled. It's like, yeah, because you go into post, that's like what you would do. Like, why would you let him just turn around? He's a
Yeah.
giant 7-footer, and you
Mhm.
make him like try to pass it out, which is not his strongest suit. Like he can do it, but it's not his strongest way. So like, why would you? If there was no double teams, it'd be the greatest ever. It's like, yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned that, because when we saw Team USA play Germany in that very last exhibition game, and LeBron had to have that fourth quarter takeover basically for the USA to take it home, I thought Germany was quite impressive, particularly defensively in that game. I was like, you know what? Actually, if Team USA didn't have LeBron, I would think they were a lot more beatable than they than they are
Yeah.
with him.
Probably,
Right?
yeah.
Which is kind of crazy in year 20 of his
I
professional
hate it.
career that this guy is clearly in like all of these exhibition games too. He is the
Clearly
best
the best.
player on Team USA. And it's ridiculous.
And that's what we talked about. Like
Right.
that's like he has athleticism, but then he also has that knows how like to manipulate geometries, knows to use up space.
Mhm.
And then when you forget about the like there's no ref play, it's just okay, let me just bully ball. Like he can do that. Like he can that's why I'm like
Yeah.
sometimes frustrated. I'm like, do that in the NBA too. Like don't turn around and like look at the refs or like try to get the calls like it's just which I mean he doesn't do as much like obviously it's not
Right.
egregious
He
but
he I think
this was so awesome like what he
he
did against
complains a
Germany.
lot, but he doesn't actually like foul
Flop
refs
as
a lot.
yeah not as much yeah he does complain but it again like I'm gonna go
He
back to
complains a
like
lot though.
he does but again for that Germany like he was so good like I was like watching I'm like I
That
can't believe like this is
I was in
happening
awe.
like it's one of those like oh my god like again but yeah without him like we'll see just I want him to leave us alone like move away from the Olympics
I
already.
know. I joked at the time because he was clearly exerting so much energy. Like the sequences were defensive rebound, first one down the floor, gets the transition layup, next position down. They get a stop. He gets the defensive rebound again, makes the pass for the assist. Next position down. They miss the shot. Germany's like trying to outlet pass, get the ball up as quickly as possible. And he was the one that he like, I think missed a layup. And then he was somehow the first one back to intercept the last pass that would have resulted in layup for Germany at the other basket.
Yeah.
Ridiculous human being. I don't believe he's real. But that's LeBron James for you. Okay, so I am really curious about some of the conversations I've heard about what Serbia's strategy should be in this tournament, right? There's a little bit less room to game things because of what we talked about with these smaller groups in the format that they're going with this year. So my question is whether Serbia's goal should be to win this group, which entails obviously winning their games against Puerto Rico and South Sudan, but also against Team USA in group play, or not.
Yeah, regardless, like it's gonna be luck eventually with where they land on the bracket. They might end up still, even if they're first and
Mhm.
second or first, they might still end up in the semifinal against USA. So it doesn't matter. So I think just this is one of those like you remove that part of like gameplay outside of the court. You just go for wins now. Like there's no, it's a
Mhm.
short tournament. There's not really any again with the draws like you can't really game it again like you're just going to be whatever the draw gets you and you go for the wins at all times like obviously like if it's a first game so like if it's getting out of hand maybe like they'll like call it early and not exert so much energy to
But
like
then point differential also
right
matters,
exactly
right?
yeah
So
but
there's no
honestly
real option to kind of punt on
yeah
any
it's
game
true
because there are so
I know
few.
if they lose to like Puerto Rico and South Sudan, they shouldn't even be going through. Like that's my opinion. So like it doesn't matter for the point differential. But I understand what you're saying. Like you want to not go lose by 40, like 50 over there, and just lose the ability to be the wild card at all. So I think the strategy is just to win, and I think they're good enough to do it. They have like a really good starting lineup for people that are like not as familiar with Serbia's players. If you like gritty defense and like really sound fundamental basketball, like you have guys that really know what they're doing. Like Avramovic and Dobric are like the poster kids for that. They're not the most talented. They're not like possibly the best guys. Like you have Guduric that's like in his club years. He might have, for sure he has had better careers than Dobric and Avramovic, possibly a better player there. But as just part of Serbia in this fit, those two guards are unbelievable. And they're not like pure point guards either, which is like one of the rare moments
Mhm.
in Serbian basketball where we don't have like a floor general on the ball. It's Bogdanovic, it's going to be sharing the ball, which is going to be interesting if it gets tight at some point. Like Vasa
So
is not my
for
favorite point guard in the world. He's the most talented of our guards, but and he's like a Jamal Clutch guy, but
Oh
It's not
yeah,
Stefan. He's not
he has
Stefan
some
Jovic. Yeah,
serious like adrenaline junkie energy in some of these exhibition games where I'm
yeah,
just like,
yeah.
what are you doing this entire game? And then he makes a few spectacular plays at the end to just bring it home. So for the audience, who
hmm
is mostly an NBA watching audience, you were talking about Avramovich as one of these great defensive guards. My favorite comp for him in the NBA is Jalen Suggs. He's incredibly
Yeah,
pesky on the ball, and his motor just like he just never stops going.
yeah.
Um, I
He's a
do think that
psycho.
he may be similar to Jalen Suggs actually when he plays like a Steph Curry type that he doesn't really have a lot of experience guarding. It's a little different chasing that guy off ball than most of the other players that he's going to be dealing with. But I definitely want the audience to be on the lookout for Alexa Avramovich as that kind of defensive presence. And you're talking about some of these guys, like who are the biggest X factors for Team Serbia? Like who are the guys who you could see helping to propel them to a win in the group stage over Team USA?
So it would have to be couple of. So we are really thin on the four, like on the wings this year. That's why we brought like basically four centers, and Petrushev's kind of a
Mm,
power forward like by necessity, but then he's really fitting well with Jokic, so it's kind of going to be there, and he stretches out okay. But Nikola Jovic, if he's healthy, that can be a really big game changer. He had good FIBA last year, another NBA season under his belt, and then again had a little injury. So but he was back. I was surprised. I thought he wasn't going to be back. So him and Davidovich are in that they're basically coming in not really super healthy, but it had to go because Lucic wasn't playing. Kalinic was retired, and those were all like Swiss Army knives. You can put them at the four, and it's not going to be an issue, but they could stretch it and play really good defense. So Davidovich is your who would be the guy, the Joe Ingles type. Like it's kind of like a mellow, but he like fundamentally is very sound. He can shoot, and then you have Jovic that's like an energy young kid, like very talented, obviously. So like those guys have to like those positions have to be short up, and not obviously like they have to make shots. They have to make open shots because they're gonna have a lot, and they usually do have a lot. And
hmm
that was the bad thing about Germany last year when it got tougher. Like Guduric was missing some open threes. Like that's why Bogdan obviously his health is like the most important
Yeah.
because FIBA, as much as like they're great big guys and everything in the world, FIBA is all about the guards. In most cases, in most years, usually it's like the March Madness. You have a good guard, single elimination. If you can control the game and not let it get out of hand with the really good like floor general, you'll be good. That's why I'm like Stefan Jovic retired, and it pains me because he
Hmm.
was.
Mm.
It's unfortunate they would have to still depend on a guy like that, and then Topic is still young, so he might be like next in line. So he'll be depending on like Vasa being very sound and not making turnovers that lead to fast breaks because we have a good defense that can play from the set. So he's which is like pain, which hurts me. But again, from Euros, the difference is Bogdanovic is playing, and then Avramovic and Dobric are playing as well. So that year Dobric wasn't going, and that was like a big mistake that they made for the Euros. And now they're starting, which is like for me like a really big headway
Yeah.
for Pesic as a coach to be like screw the traditional kind of situation. Like these guys are not your main ball handlers; they're your executors. They're good defenders. And for Serbia to always succeed, the point of attack defense was like the main part. Every year that I watched, I remember
Mm.
winning any medals was, including last year. Avramovich would go crazy and watch like 3 days nonstop of SGA highlights, and he figured him out like where he likes to, how he and what timing likes to attack. He stole like 3 or 4 direct like dribble balls from him,
Wow.
and like just it was unbelievable. Like SGA was really bad in that game, like because of this guy. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that. That would be really interesting. And again, with the USA, it's hard. It has a lot of things have to
Yeah.
break their
Steph is
way.
a different beast, I will say.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not even like I'm talking
It's
about
not
just
just
even the
him. Yeah.
tournament, like getting a medal in the tournament at all. Like this,
Mm.
as good as I said, this is one of the best tournaments like ever I've seen for basketball international. They have to really be on point in every game. There's no like setbacks, and there's no like 29 minutes for Jokic kind of games that he has to play.
You're making it sound so exciting.
It's
Are
so good.
there any like differences that you would want to tell the audience or like Nuggets fans about Jokic and his game, like how he plays with the Nuggets versus how he plays with Serbia?
It's mostly, I mean, it is similar. It might have less, which I think they adopted a lot of those like dribble handoffs again now,
A
especially
lot of
without,
handoffs I've seen in the
and
exhibition
that's
games.
usually with him. Generally, it's just now I think without the tradition, there's no Teodosic, there's no Jovic. Like they're doing a lot more like spread around and attack like open spots. I don't like you can see a game, like don't be surprised if you see a game from him that's like 10-8-7, and they still like a close game, but he still has those numbers. If there's, it's just a FIBA games like that, like the numbers
Yeah.
aren't gonna be eye popping sometimes. It really is surprising when a guy gets like 40 points, and it's usually a team that like has no one that score, and so it's like a lot of feeding the one guy. Like, so I wouldn't be like, don't be shocked if there's a game from Jokic like that, and you're like, why is he not attacking? Like sometimes, like again, because of these geometries and narrower spacing, like he might not be able to do the same thing as he does in the NBA. Not, to, but like he might still be effective in getting an open shot. So maybe prepared to be more frustrated. The guys might not hit open shots sometimes. Like I could see it against Puerto Rico. Like
We're more excited because there are going to be so many open shots available to everyone. So if they hit like half of them, that's like, woo, let's go.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Oh, I'm really excited about this tournament. I hope
starts tomorrow too, like first Saturday.
I know.
First game, yeah.
We're going to try to get this episode out. Definitely, I think before USA Serbia game. But this will definitely be a good primer really at any point during group play because we talked about the elimination rounds as well.
All right, listeners, thank you if you made it this far. I hope this episode helped you as you get into FIBA basketball and help you enjoy it more. And just remember, winning is fun and losing sucks.